guys? It's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 80, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, it's been a little while. How you doing, man?
It has been a little while. Happy to be back. Doing great, man. Glad to have some good, interesting fights to talk about, and missed you, man. How you been?
I've been good. I was gonna try to do like this new opening. I've been listening to Luke Thomas's like Morning Combat a little bit more. I used to hate Luke, but I kind of like him again. And he's always saying like the something to my something, and I was gonna say the William to my Shakespeare, but I don't think that works.
Well, you can just keep calling me beautiful and brilliant. I like that.
All right, fair. All right, yeah, that is a good deal for you. Okay. All right, so guys,
I don't know why you started that, but I appreciate it.
I don't either, and I don't want to be questioned about it.
Well, hey, I'll take it. Let's keep it moving.
All right, guys, we've got a lot on tap today. We missed you all. We've got the UFC 253 recap. A lot happened this weekend. Then we are jumping into our quick preview for Holm versus Aldana. After that, we are going to jump into our favorite section, listener questions and more. But, Fight Geek, I wanted to start off with this question for you. So obviously the main event saw Israel Adesanya retain his middleweight belt with a absolutely dominating second round TKO stoppage. And I wanted to ask you first and foremost, who, if anyone, do you see stopping Israel Adesanya at middleweight in the near future?
Well, I mean, that's a tough question to answer, honestly. As far as seeing someone stopping him at this point at his apex prime, obviously I don't see anyone better than him today. Will there be somebody who pops up and presents challenges? That's always, a possibility in the future. But right now, based on, how technical and his skill set and kind of his overall confidence and package, I don't really see that there's anyone I would favor versus Israel right now. Now, are there guys you could put against him that potentially are more interesting than others? Sure, but I don't think there's a man alive at 185 you could favor versus Israel Adesanya today.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this question really quick because it didn't come up in our listener questions, but I did think it was worth mentioning. It's gotten a little bit of traction on social media. Some folks have talked about Izzy's right pectoral looking a little big. Some saying that could point to signs of potential steroid use. What are your thoughts on that? It's worth noting really quick that there's many other potential reasons for that, including drastic weight loss, sustained injuries, as well as even antidepressants, antibiotics, strange reactions to all types of medications.
There's lots of reasons. I really am kind of reserving my judgment on that to kind of wait and see if the aftermath turns into anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to bring it up because so many others have
I would be lying if I said it was not curious.
Okay.
So I think that's where I'm at. I noticed that immediately when I saw Izzy on Saturday night. It was one of the first things I was thinking. I think there are many reasonable excuses for that. I do think that some of them are in that gray area and could be shady. But like I said, I'm going to wait and reserve my judgment to see if anything comes of it.
Yeah, I think
Israel really kind of just shook it off. I know it was brought up to him in the post-fight press conferences. Yeah, I really don't know what to say on that other than it was curious, and I'll be really interested to see where that topic goes.
Yeah, and that's all we'll do in terms of mentioning that. I just wanted to briefly bring it up to acknowledge it, as I know that there's been a lot of chatter online. For the record, I do want to go on record saying I think it's absolutely nothing nefarious and nothing will come of it. Hopefully I'm right. But let's just jump right into it, Fight Geek, and let's start with the main event. Israel Adesanya defeating Paulo Costa. We both picked that correctly, but I feel like I got it wrong. I thought Israel was going to have to go through hell to win a unanimous decision, and he toyed with Costa. I don't know about you. It reminded me personally a lot of the UFC 205 fight with McGregor Alvarez. It seemed like that kind of shocking domination, perhaps because Costa was also undefeated. But I'm curious what you made of Paulo's game plan. It was later revealed that his coaches said that he should hold back for the first 2 rounds and explode in the last 3. And to me, that just seems nothing short of insane.
See, I feel like that's a little bit of damage control after the fact. You know, people are so concerned with Costa's game plan. To me, what I took away from that fight is that Israel instituted his game plan to perfection, which essentially eliminated any game plan Costa could have possibly had. I mean, he was nullified by an 8-inch reach advantage. Costa's obviously far inferior when it comes to footwork. It was just in retrospect, it's a horrible matchup for Costa. I don't think it's that Costa went in there with a mindset to do anything differently. I think that he was completely bottled up and outclassed by a better fighter. I think Costa did what Israel allowed him to do, which was virtually nothing. And I believe
but he wasn't checking any kicks. I'm not trying to hop on Costa.
I understand, but has he been known for checking kicks in the past, or is he a guy who takes shots and tries to come forward? I think he was respecting the power and the sharpness of Izzy, and I think that's the reason he was unable to get inside. Every time he tried to charge in and pin him against the cage, albeit very few times, Israel's footwork was perfect in circling out. He was unpredictable. He was landing a variety of strikes. I mean, the leg. I know he landed, I think it was 27 leg kicks total. That's not official. I just off the top of my head.
Israel was chopping the leg down like a tree.
But they weren't all the same exact leg kick. Some of them were that front kick that John Jones uses. Some of them were inside. Some of them were outside. So he was just continually staying busy there, and he clearly landed the better strikes with his hands. And I feel like Costa just identified very quickly that anytime he came within a certain range, he was eating that kick or in serious trouble, which I think was warranted considering he was finished early in the second round. So I don't want to put it as like what Costa didn't do, because I firmly believe that it was all a consequence of what Israel did do.
I agree with you, and we're going to get to Israel and just how special he is in 1 second. But just to end on Costa, I've rewatched the fight now a few times. Frankly, Fight Geek, I've rewatched it a few times because it's short, it's easy to rewatch, and I was in complete shock about not just the result, but how easy it seemed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I watched it back a few times, too. It's not the most exciting fight in the world, but it is a
total domination.
Masterpiece.
Oh, yeah.
It's a technical masterpiece.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. And my question to you is, after the first round, which is nothing short of a disaster for Paulo Costa. I mean, let's just be honest here. It's nothing short of a disaster.
I'm not even sure. He landed less than 4 or 5 strikes in that round?
I think he landed just about 4 or 5. It was single digits. And what happened is he gets into his corner, and his corner says, "Perfect. That's what we need to see from you. Believe in your combos." I think that's a disservice.
What you saw here is that Costa's a tough Brazil contestant.
I like Costa, by the way. I like Costa.
I like Costa.
I felt bad seeing him get mistreated like this with his corner.
Compared to Israel Adesanya, though, he's extremely raw. So, I mean,
But did his coaches do him a disservice with that horrible cornering?
I mean, yeah, I think you could go out and say that the cornering wasn't the best, and obviously his game plan wasn't the best, but I don't know that Costa, as currently constructed, no matter what the game plan is, can beat Israel Adesanya as currently constructed, even on his best night.
Oh, there's not a chance. There's not a chance in hell.
So no matter who the coach was for Costa, I would still, on Saturday night, I would have still favored Israel significantly due to the fact he had an 8-inch reach advantage, and how technical and his defensive footwork is, it's genius level. So I would have taken him no matter who Costa's coach was.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so moving on to the co-main event, Jan Blehovich upsets Dominic Reyes, and I get a little bit of bragging rights over you here, Fight Geek, because I do believe I chose Jan
I definitely chose Reyes. There was a part of me that was a little concerned about Reyes being overconfident. I feel like he really rode that, that close decision with John and really kind of maybe believed he was a little better than he was going into that fight. But with that said, you still have to step into the cage and conduct yourself accordingly, and Jan looked great. I mean, you saw
It was incredible.
It was such a veteran, workman-like, kind of gritty, nuanced performance. He didn't rush anything. He didn't look like the moment was too big for him. He really just executed a very Jan game plan.
Didn't fall for Dominic's feints. Didn't
fall for much of anything, and actually those left leg kicks that hit Reyes' ribs and
I've never seen anything like it. I don't know if I've ever seen it like it.
And he was showing a pretty good poker face, but there's no doubt about it that those were significant. Reyes started dropping his right arm to kind of guard his body, and Jan just continued to pick him apart. And Jan's he's a big, dense, strong guy. If you let him get his hands on you too many times cleanly, that's what's going to happen,
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I think that many people would say that, what do Israel Otasanya and Jan Blehovich have in common? Well, not much. Well, the one thing that I think they have a lot in common is they both seem to improve exponentially from fight to fight, which is crazy to me with Jan especially, right? He's 37 years old. But he just seems to look better and better every fight recently. And it's the same with Israel.
He's on a bit of a Michael Bisping run, it kind of feels like right now.
Okay, but I mean, hey, I know people were writing off his win against Luke Rockhold. Okay, fine. What about Corey? What about what he did to Corey?
That'll live forever. That was a clean knockout. So, I mean, he's had a couple wins that aren't, I guess the
folded Corey like a lawn chair. Corey Anderson like a lawn chair.
Well, absolutely. But Corey Anderson was also coming off of a traumatic head injury a few months before. So there was still some questions attached to that. I would say this is the most legitimate performance of Jan's career, and it's just incredibly impressive that it happened on the biggest stage.
Hold on, I may be completely mistaken here, Fight Geek, but didn't Corey Anderson have the traumatic head injury after the fight with Jan, like a week later?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Okay,
I wasn't. You're right, yeah.
But still, I see your. I mean, look, I see your point. Corey, Corey's not exactly the greatest light heavyweight, but
and Corey was knocked out, by Jimmy Manuwa, I believe.
Right, you're absolutely right.
And so it's not like he's an iron chin type guy. I'm not taking anything from Jan, but I'm saying this performance clearly, I think you could point to and be like, everybody going into this fight firmly believed that Reyes is an elite 205er, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
So there's no question there. And to dispatch of him that way, kind of outclassing him, I mean, impressive stuff. Great story to see. Jan's like a super humble, soft-spoken guy. So, I think it's a cool story. I'm not sure how many times I see him defending this belt.
That's my next question. I'm glad you brought it up. How many times do you see him defending the belt? And let's assume, Fight Geek, that his next fight is Jan versus Santos 2, because that's what I think it will be.
It's hard for me to say anything on that fight until I see Santos fight again. So until I see him versus
Glover.
That's
fair, but that's not very interesting radio.
That's true. But I mean, I kind of would favor Jan at this point just because he's the active, hot fighter, and then Santos would be kind of working his way back. I mean, if he comes in and starches Glover, who looks great, obviously my opinion could change. But we'll see. I mean, I think it's an interesting fight. I don't think it's a blockbuster fight. I think it's a winnable fight for Jan. I actually think if Glover were to win, I think Glover's a more of a problem for Jan than Santos almost. So I guess we'll just have to see.
Interesting. Do you think because of the BJJ, the ground game?
Yeah, I just think that Glover has shown, especially in his recent performances, that he's willing to adapt his game and not just be a slugger. He'll get you to the ground, and he can really put that heavy top game on you and beat you up. And I think that that's something he could exploit potentially in a fight versus Jan. So I think both of those guys make interesting matchups, but like I said, not exactly blockbuster fights, but still certainly interesting.
Okay, so we're just about to move on. Last question, gun to your head. Jan Blehovich, how many successful title defenses does he have? He obviously has 0 right now. He just won the belt. Does he get 1, 2, 3?
If a gun to my head, I would say 0.
Okay. I'm going to say 1. I think he beats Santos.
Yeah, I think he'd have a hard time with both of those guys, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, can't wait. I like light heavyweight as this Wild West with Jan as the new sheriff in town, and we'll see how long he can keep it under control. I like that. I think it's fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Brandon Royval had a big win against Kai Kara France. Don't want to talk too much about it. Just
Well, this fight was awesome, though.
It was an awesome fight. It was, I believe it was fight of the night, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think Brandon Royval is one of the young sleeper action fighters. I mean, he's 2 fights in. Both of his fights have been absolute bangers. Couldn't be more impressed with this kid. Super funky style. Doesn't ever stop. Just goes. Loved that fight. Super exciting.
Yep, and Royval has now jumped to the 7-ranked contender at flyweight. Who would you like to see him fight next? I would love to see him versus Brandon Moreno, personally.
No, Brandon Moreno's number 2. I think that's a little too high for him personally.
7-2? Is it really that crazy?
I think it is.
Okay, so who would you prefer?
Give me some names. You got it pulled up?
Yeah.
I don't have that.
You guys see how Fight Geek thinks that I'm like the Jamie to his Joe Rogan. It's very offensive. He's like, pull this up. You don't have it pulled up?
Where is it? Hire someone you are.
What? I do not like that sass, young man. Okay. Juicy Formiga, Pantoja, Perez.
Pantoja, perfect. Versus Royval.
Okay. I mean, that's the number 5. I don't really know what that does for... I definitely
Pantoja's coming off a loss, so...
Pantoja would be pissed about that fight. He's like, what the hell is that going to do for me? But...
Well, he needs to... No, I think that's a more appropriate fight than Moreno, who's ranked 2 and basically sitting there for a title shot.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's fair. Okay, so then moving on, Kaylen Vieira had a nice unanimous decision win over Sarge Eubanks. I don't have much to say on that, but I did want to talk about Hakeem Dawodu versus Zubaira Tukhugov.
Dawodu.
What did I say?
I'm not sure.
I said Dawodu. I think you said Dawodu, and then I corrected you and said Dawodu.
I think it was the other way around. But okay, what do you want to talk about?
Just edit it so it works in my favor.
I thought this fight was kind of boring. I felt like the most exciting part
You thought the fight was boring?
Yeah, I thought it was boring. It felt like Zubaira was really staying away. Obviously, it prompted Hakeem to scream at him, "Let's fight."
I think you mean let's fucking fight. And then the ref said no cursing.
No cursing, which was bizarre.
Even though it was on the pay-per-view, so...
Yeah, I thought the fight was a little lackluster. Obviously, Zubaira missing weight is a huge problem, weighing in 90 minutes early.
Yep.
I think that the most interesting part of that fight was really kind of the surrounding drama. Close fight, could have gone either way, but not a whole lot of action.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too much into this fight because I know we have a listener question or two about it, so we're about to move on. The last thing I wanted to ask is, some people are trying to look into the fact that Khabib was in his corner, that Zubaira appeared to quit, and I've seen some people, sort of infer, hey, I hope this isn't, or maybe I hope this is, depending on who it was, is this bad news for Khabib? And I don't think so.
Well, why would it be bad news?
Well, they're saying, his teammate quit in there with him as his coach. Yeah. His teammate lost. For the record, I don't think it affects
I guess I'm not understanding the correlation. So what do you mean he quit?
Well, I think people were saying that in that third round, Zubaira did not want to engage. That's why Hakeem had to scream, "Let's fucking fight." Obviously, Zubaira was moving backwards.
I don't think that means he quit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I shouldn't have used the word quit, but didn't want to engage. And quit was a word that I did see used a lot.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that reflects on Khabib in any way, shape, or form. It was pretty clear that
Zubaira's... it's a teammate. He's the coach. I mean, Khabib is essentially acting as the cornerman head coach, right?
Yeah, but
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
He clearly had a tough weight cut. So how do we know that he wasn't just completely gassed in that third round based off the mismanagement of his weight cut? I mean, that's kind of what I thought it
entirely
looked like.
Possible. Yeah, so you think it doesn't have anything? It won't affect Khabib?
And we'll get to this question, but I think it affects something that's more interesting to me is like Zubaira, are there grounds to cut him, and then would Khabib be upset about that? I think that's another question to ask, but
we
I don't
can't
think
answer it because it's been asked in the listener questions.
All right, so
I would have asked it, but that one has been asked. Okay, so are we ready to move on to our very quick preview of UFC Fight Night Home versus Aldana?
Let's do it.
All right, guys, so we are jumping into this, and we're going to just really, really quickly go over this main card. We've got Dequan Townsend taking on Dusko Todorovic from Serbia, the undefeated Dusko Todorovic versus the number 101 light heavyweight in the world, Dequan Townsend. And I've got Todorovic in this one, Fight Geek. What about you?
Do you know Todorovic is generally a 185er, or?
Oh, thank you for the condescending little question. Yes, I'm well aware. I'm actually a big fan of a lot of people from that region, as you may know.
Yeah, I'm actually going to disagree with you, and I'm going to take the larger man, Dequan Townsend. He's actually been
the big
active.
favorite. Interesting. Okay. Big favorite. Big favorite.
Big favorite, yeah. So, yeah, I'm just taking Townsend here. He's been a little more active. He's had some tough results, but I think he's shown some promise in all of them. So, with the size advantage.
Did you know that he's usually a middleweight? Oh, my gosh. Thanks, Fight Geek.
All right.
Okay, moving on. Kyler Phillips versus Cameron Else. Who you got?
I'm actually going to go roll with Kyler Phillips here.
I also have Kyler Phillips here, and I have him winning by second round stoppage. Okay, moving on. GDR Jermaine Durandamy, the Netherlandian police officer, versus Juliana Pena, a fight that actually, Fight Geek, I think has been going a little bit under the radar. It's the number 1 bantamweight contender in Jermaine Durandamy versus the number 7 in Juliana Pena. And I have got Jermaine Durandamy by second round TKO. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how you can pick against GDR right here. She's obviously been far more active. She's had great results recently. She even, fared fairly well versus Amanda Nunes. So I think it's a clear GDR win here. On the feet, she'll have an enormous advantage, and she showed versus Nunes that she's actually pretty formidable with defending herself on the ground and in those situations, which is Pena's strength. So definitely taking Durandamy here, and I think this should be the co-main of the night. This is obviously the second best fight name value in my opinion.
Yeah, it's weird that it isn't. Very weird. But okay, so for the co-main, we've got Yorgan De Castro, 6-1, the number 38 heavyweight worldwide, versus Carlos Felipe, 8-1, the number 100 heavyweight worldwide. And I am going with Yorgan De Castro. I wish I could say by knockout, but I actually see this being a competitive split decision win for De Castro. What about you?
Yeah, I'm definitely going with Yorgan De Castro here. Not a lot to offer other than that. Just rolling with Yorgan De Castro.
Yeah. Not the thickest card. Okay, but the main event. Bring us to the main event. The Preacher's daughter, Holly Holm, versus Irene Aldana. I've been making the picks first lately. Who do you got in this main event, Fight Geek?
This is a tough one. Technically, I've always been a huge fan of Holly Holm, but she's had mixed results and she's getting up there in age. And I'm going to take Irene Aldana in a split decision here. I think that Holly's had a hard time with her output, and I think Aldana's on the rise, and I just think this is her time to kind of get over. And then I think that would set her up to be next in line for Nunes. So I'm rolling with Aldana.
I love it. I got Holm by split decision.
Okay, so it's going to be a close one either way. I mean, I could make a case back and forth. It should definitely be, a point-fighting, striking match. And like I said, Holly's had some mixed results, and Irene seems to be trending up. So
Absolutely. Okay, guys, so with that, we're going to take a really quick break, and we'll be back soon with listener questions and more. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision Podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.totalaggressionclothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special split podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.totalaggressionclothing.com with promo code 46210. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 80, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek, and it is now time for my favorite section of all, and that is Listener Questions!
Alright. You're a little rusty, Phil.
Yeah, I think I'm a lot of rusty, Fight Geek, but that's alright. Okay, so first question comes from my man, that's at Yugi MMA. He's got a great show himself, guys. Check it out. He's the man. Love this guy. He says, each of you, name 5 fighters you would retire right now if you had the authority. And he's announcing that like Cartman from South Park. So 5
Great
each
question.
is a ton. Do we want to split off and split off?
I think we should go back and forth.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll have similar fighters. So I'll go ahead and lead off with one that I feel pretty strongly about. Mauricio Shogun Hua.
Okay, I like that a lot. And I'm going to counter that with Diego Sanchez.
No brainer. Okay, I'm going to follow that up with Cowboy Cerrone.
Ooh, I like it. I agree. We might get a perfect 5, I think, honestly. I'm going to follow that up with, and I know he's booked to fight, I don't care, Robbie Lawler.
Very fair.
Wait, I want to see, okay, wait, because you legit picked my first 4 without a shadow of a doubt. I want to hear your 5th. I have it written down. I'm curious if it's going to be the same.
Doubtful, but is BJ Penn still on the active roster?
No, he's cut.
No, I'm just kidding.
Wait, I really want to see if we pick the same 5. That'd be so interesting. I have a 5th. I'm staring at him.
I would say Chris Weidman is my 5th.
Oh, interesting. I had Carlos Condit.
Yeah, Condit. Another one that came to mind for me was Joseph Benavidez.
Yeah, oh yeah. Ooh, jeez.
And then Luke Rockhold's a no-brainer, but he's semi-retired.
Weidman, you're so mean. Weidman hit a win. Well, he's going to cry.
Weidman has had a tough go of it, and it seems like, every time he comes back, he's not exactly the version I remember, which was an elite champion. So, yeah, I mean, those are some of the guys on my list. I feel like their era has shifted.
No, I completely agree with you, and that's such a fun question from Yugi. So thank you, bro.
Yeah, great question.
Great question. Okay, so moving on. This question is from the one and only Smokey J MMA at Smokey J MMA. Guys, give him a follow. He is one of our favorite people on Twitter. Great drawings, always positive, great fun, just a great guy. I mean, he's a much better guy than me, that's for sure. So he says, do you legends think, I just have to think about it in his voice when I hear the do you legends. Do you legends think that Izzy giving Paulo a quick humping thrust after he finished him was out of sorts or 100% normal considering the back and forth between them in the build-up? Also, do you think Paulo can alter his game and get the win if they fight again? Great question, Smokey J. Fight Geek, start us off.
Was he out of sorts? I mean, it wasn't my favorite thing, but based on the buildup of the fight and kind of the ongoing dialogue, I don't really think it was out of sorts. Was it classy? I don't think it's going to be confused as classy, but I don't think Israel Adesanya was trying to be classy there. Just the same way John Jones came out and kind of talked bad about DC and saying he didn't like him post-fight. It was just, the bad blood spilled over here. I think Costa, poked fun at Izzy's sexuality this whole lead up, which Toda line
100%.
So which towed a specific line, and then I feel like Israel Adesanya is the kind of guy who will walk that line even closer and be like, okay, if this is what you want, this is what I'll give you. He's just kind of that personality in my opinion. So was it out of line a little bit, but was it out of sorts? Not really, considering it was par for the course on that build-up.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And by the way, it's worth noting, there's a decent amount of people who, thought it was pretty classless, and I honestly completely see where they're coming from. I really do. I think there's a question about whether pretending to have sex with a guy and is pretty intense.
Was it classless? Yes, it was classless, but this is the hurt business.
Exactly.
This is the fight business. There's no class when you're smashing each other in the face.
Yeah, you bring me exactly to my point, Fight Geek.
Yeah.
I mean, so Costa was saying for literally 6 months, since before the Romero fight, I'm the king of bitches. You're my bitch. He made so many memes portraying Israel as a woman, which was fun. By the way, which was fine. I honestly found it funny. I'm not saying there was anything wrong with that. There wasn't.
Yeah, and Israel never came out and
no big deal.
Was bothering him.
No big deal. Honestly, no big deal. Like there was a bad blood feud, and we saw it. No problem. And I thought it was very fair game for Costa to do that. He made this kind of video where they're like going on a date.
Well, another thing that I will say is that is 100% consistent with the character Israel has showed us also. I mean, the first time he appeared in the UFC cage, he beat Rob Wilkinson and then said, "There's a new dog here. I just pissed all over the cage." Israel Adesanya has towed the line with that kind of content around his persona since he began. So I don't think it's really that out of character, honestly.
No, I completely agree. And I think that some people, I'm really glad you brought that up, that it's not out of character, because I think some people actually misunderstand Israel Adesanya just a little bit. A lot of people sort of like to paint him as this superhero of good. And all he does is he's this superhero of this bright, shiny rainbow of good and sunshine and unicorn farts. I'm a big fan of his, but he's actually a bit of a villain at times.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, he has the skills of the superhero, but he definitely has the persona of the villain.
At times. He's got his own sort of twist.
But I mean, he's an antagonist. He's an antagonist, even the way he talks about himself and the way he covers the things that he decides to latch onto. He is 100% an antagonist.
And I think that one of the reasons that, again, I don't want to overspeak for everyone, but, I can speak for me at least. I think one of the initial reasons that so many people sort of are rubbed wrong by John Jones is that he should be an antagonist, and he is one deep down, but he won't embrace it, so he comes off as phony.
Well, he wouldn't embrace it early on, and I think that's kind of what the Rashad thing was about, like, be yourself, you're fake, yada, yada. I do feel like John has embraced his antagonist much more in the second phase of his career, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure, but I feel like Izzy just has a complete understanding of the game. When you asked him they asked him who's next, he starts, without a shadow of a doubt, he says, well, Cannonier as long as he wins, but I'm happy to knock out Whitaker a third time. I thought that was pretty funny that he said a third time instead of the second time. You can tell the confidence is just oozing out of him. But
and I probably sound old when I say this, but Israel Adesanya really speaks to a younger generation. I mean,
no, he does.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people are not going to understand the antics and may not like the antics, but he's probably not going to be your favorite fighter. No harm, no foul. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And again, no one needs to like Israel Adesanya. No one should feel like they need to like him. But I think people will tune in.
I didn't particularly like the antics, but that's not going to ever steer me away from saying that he's arguably the greatest fighter walking on the planet today.
And I didn't. Yeah. And by the way, I didn't particularly like the antics either. But did I deep down think they were pretty funny and deserved for Costa? Absolutely. I laughed.
You can go back through the history of fighting, specifically the UFC, and I can name a few. Bisping versus Luke Rockhold was funny at times, but it was also very rude at times. And then the Conor Khabib lead up. I mean, John DC, we've seen this kind of thing many times. It just depends on, which way it decides to morph throughout the build-up.
They're cage fighters. They're not in debate class,
Exactly.
Yeah, I completely agree. So moving on, this question is from our man, Zan Bando. That's at Zan Bando 99. He says, if you were to guess, what is the announcement that Dana will make regarding boxing in the next few weeks as he promised? Hashtag AskSplitPod. Fight Geek? What do you think?
I really don't follow Dana's in the boxing and that topic all that much, so I really am in the dark, but if I had to guess...
I don't think it's going to be much.
No, I don't think it is either, but maybe... I don't know.
I mean, before we would have guessed McGregor Pacquiao.
ESPN is like a common denominator between like Top Rank and UFC. Maybe ESPN is bringing them together for something. I'm not sure. I'll go with that.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we would have guessed McGregor Pacquiao just maybe 48 hours ago when McGregor said that was happening.
Yeah, but that was always happening outside of the UFC, so that
not. I mean, the Pacquiao boxing match he inferred was going to be through Dana, just like the Mayweather fight. Then a day ago, he realizes Dana's mad at him. That ain't working, and he says, "Hey, Dustin, I care about your charity. Let's do a charity."
But boxing. Fight. Answer the question.
I think it's going to be a bag of hot air, Zan.
Yeah.
A whole bag of nothing.
I wouldn't be surprised if Dana just never makes the announcement. I've been waiting.
Exactly.
I've been waiting on a Zuffa boxing announcement for about 18 months now.
Yeah, it's not. I agree. I don't think anything's coming. So this question is from our man, Jokers LL. That's at Jokers LL. Love this guy. We don't always agree, but he is one of the most loyal friends on here to both of us, and we really appreciate you, Jokers. So he says, how much more fun is the light heavyweight division now that we don't have a point-fighting champion putting on mediocre performances? Wow, I love this already. With John gone and Jan at the top, I think the title matches at light heavyweight will be a lot more fun, less predictable, and higher finish chances. Thoughts? My thoughts, Jokers, is I completely agree. I said this earlier with the Wild West, and Jan's the new sheriff in town for now. I think it's going to be crazy, and I think it's going to be crazy fun. Get out the popcorn.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be fun. I mean, John became stale because he was so dominant for so long. I think this belt could possibly change hands 3 times in a row. So there's going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of unpredictability, and I think that's good for the 205-pound division. So, yeah, I agree.
Definitely. And it kind of brings me back to
how fun would it be? And this is just hypothetical to see Jan get his belt, and then let's say Glover wins, and then Glover gets a chance to be a champion, and
he were to win, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, and then let's say Reyes were to come back and beat Glover, and then we'd actually have a young champion, but we'd have a detour with letting guys like Jan and Glover become champions. So I think there's going to be some exciting developments for sure.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And, I think that the one thing I was going to mention really quick was it reminds me, light heavyweight right now reminds me of flyweight right after Henry Cejudo left. So at first it felt really empty, really bad, right? But you made the Joseph Benavidez versus Davison Figueiredo fight. Okay, Davison misses weight and kills him, but okay, so you run it back, right? And then Figueiredo 2 versus Benavidez, it was a little bit like Reyes versus Jan, right? I mean, I feel like Benavidez was the one everyone had crowned as the uncrowned champion, and then Figueiredo just mows him down twice in a row. Granted, this was just one time with Jan versus Reyes, but it reminded me a little bit of that. And flyweight's fun now. It feels like a fun Wild West.
Yeah, no, I actually think it actually reminds me of when Ronda Rousey, a dominant champion, lost her belt, and then that belt bounced around a couple times until Nunes really solidified it. I kind of see that happening. I see the belt bouncing around a couple times until the new solidified champion comes and really kind of grounds that division, almost like that Ronda Rousey to Amanda Nunes transition.
Absolutely. Okay, so the next question comes from our guy Juice from the Fighting With Myself podcast. Love Juice. He says, fellas, please rank Izzy's performance in terms of all-time performances by a champion in a title fight. Also, Should Zubaira get cut from the UFC? Missed you guys. Thanks, Juice. We missed you too.
Yeah, missed you too, Juice. Ranking his performance in history of title fights, I would specifically 2 other performances come to mind that were more impressive right off the bat. And that's, to me, obviously Eddie Alvarez, Conor McGregor, because Eddie Alvarez is a much more respected and proven fighter than Costa, which makes that victory that much better. Hate to say it, but it does. And TJ Dillashaw.
Costa was undefeated, though. I mean...
Yeah, but Costa was not a multi-organization champion with 25-plus fights. I mean, Eddie Alvarez was a borderline Hall of Famer already when Conor McGregor embarrassed him. So, yeah, I think the quality of opponent is vastly different there. And I would also say TJ Dillashaw versus Renan Barão 1 was arguably the most impressive performance I've ever seen in the octagon, period.
Okay, I mean, well, we know what was likely going on there.
Hey, you asked me to answer the question. I would put Izzy's performance easily in the top 5 or 6, but those 2 clearly outshine it, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Okay.
So you agree?
Do I agree that TJ Dillashaw's performance against Renan Barão outshined it? No, I think that you have to consider
You're judging that on retrospect. I'm saying in the moment, and I don't even know if you were an MMA fan when TJ won.
Wow! Wow! No, it was incredible. Well, hold up. It was incredible. It was TJ was a huge underdog.
That night, anybody who watched TJ Dillashaw dismantle Renan Barão on a 10-year winning streak will not say that. I just can't believe it would be better. Yeah, the retrospect is TJ did what TJ did, but that fight left your jaw on the ground like, oh my God, that was unbelievable. Now, Israel's performance was amazing, but it just wasn't that jaw-dropping. It was technically superior, flawless, yes, but it just didn't move me the way some of the other performances have.
Fair enough. Okay. I do respectfully disagree. I also think, obviously, look, it's annoying. You have to mention McGregor-Aldo, even if it was a one-punch knockout. You've also... Or I guess that wasn't a title defender, though. So maybe that doesn't count.
No, it just says title fight, doesn't it? It doesn't say title defense.
Okay. Fair enough.
So, yeah, I don't consider that one-shot knockout of Aldo like this.
No, by a champion in a title fight. He said by a champion.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess that eliminates TJ then and Conor. So I guess by a champion. Sorry, I didn't quite listen to that right.
And now I want to say Figueiredo versus Benavidez too, but of course Figueiredo was not the champion.
Yeah, right? So that caveat makes it much more difficult. So then that brings us back to someone like Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, George St. Pierre versus Matt Hughes 3 was pretty dominant.
Absolutely.
Chuck Liddell over Tito Ortiz was pretty dominant.
Absolutely.
Actually, I'm going to take. If we're going through history, there are a million choices. He's amazing? Obviously, it was amazing.
This was more impressive than the Whitaker victory, which I think says a hell of a lot. I didn't think that would ever be possible.
But see, I'm not necessarily ready to say that that's better because I believe that Robert Whitaker is a much better fighter than Costa. So that's a more impressive victory, especially considering he knocked him down twice in front of, 50,000 people. I would say that performance was technically better.
He also came out dancing, would have looked like a complete idiot.
I would say that performance would be rated more highly because he flossed on a defending champion. Whereas Costa, he was very impressive and he had all the hype behind him, but his resume is rather thin if you really break it down. So I think that the level of competition is not quite the same. I would still rank the Whitaker win as more valuable.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. So, really quickly,
I don't know if we answered Juice's question or not, but sorry.
Did we not?
I don't know.
No,
I didn't really
look,
put a
it was
number
his
value on
dominant.
how good his performance was.
It was about as dominant as you can get. The truth is, when you get to nitpicking on that kind of level, in my opinion, it doesn't really entirely matter.
Exactly.
He humiliated Paulo forever. Paulo will never, ever get the rematch. You don't have to worry about what will Paulo do in the rematch. He'll never get a rematch.
See, I don't believe that. I think Paulo...
You think Paulo's getting a rematch? Want to bet? Let's make a friendly bet.
Not now, but I do think Paulo should fight Kelvin Gastelum next, and I think if he beats Gastelum and then beats a Till or a Hermanson, he could be right back in the mix, no doubt.
I mean, that was about as definitive of an ass-whooping as I've ever seen.
So if he comes back and knocks Kelvin Gastelum out in the first round, the man that took Izzy 5 rounds...
Gastelum's going back down to welterweight, man. He's mentally surrendered, I think.
Well, we'll see. All right. What do you got?
Okay, so moving on. This question comes from our man, Mr. B. That's at Mr. B 1986. Love Mr. B. It's been a while, Mr. B. He says, yo, it's been a while. Here's my question. Who do you guys think offers the better fight against Israel Adesanya? The winner of Whittaker Cannonier or the winner of Till Hermanson?
Yeah, this is a super interesting question, and you're probably going to be surprised, but I think the winner of Till Hermanson.
No, I agree. I
actually think they offer more unique challenges, and the fact that Till's a fairly technical striker and not a reckless striker, I think helps him in that matchup.
I think Till's lead leg will get eaten up.
Yeah, for sure. But
really
Hermanson has shown that he has the athleticism, the striking to really, hold firm until he gets it to where he can really be dominant. So I think that would be super interesting.
And that's exactly where I was going with that, Fight Geek. Hermanson, or Hermanson,
Hermanson.
Look, okay, the Joker, Jack. You get it.
Yeah, exactly.
People are sleeping on him. I understand that Cannonier knocked him out quickly. Cannonier's a great power striker.
Yeah, Cannonier's a former heavyweight. He's going to be able to knock out a lot of guys.
Yeah, and I'm excited for what will likely be him versus Israel Adesanya. I don't think it will be enough, but it'll be fun. But I
think I would actually favor Whittaker in that fight, but I guess we'll see. It's going to be a good one. I think Whittaker's much more mobile. Cannonier's good, but...
Man, that's going to be a great fight. I might be the most excited.
He doesn't have a lot of super high-end victories. I mean,
Jack.
Yeah, Jack, but then it's like Anderson Silva and mid-tier guys like that.
God, I can't wait for Cannonier versus Whittaker.
Yeah.
That's going to be so much fun.
That's certainly like a crossroads fight for Whittaker, because if let's say he gets stopped in the first round or something, he really will be in no man's land for a little while.
Yeah, I totally agree, but I'm telling you, I do think that for right now, the biggest middleweight, enigma for Izzy, for lack of a better word, is Jack Hermanson. I think he's a weird Marvin Vettori. Okay.
He still came the closest to beating Israel. It's a fact.
Marvin has such horrible intelligence in terms of understanding the fight game. He'll be lucky if he gets a top 5 opponent by 2027. I mean, that's just real talk. That's just real talk.
I watched that fight live, Israel versus Vettori, and
yeah, but how much are you going to tell me Israel hasn't improved times a million?
Obviously, much. I think that was Israel's second fight in the octagon.
For the record, some people have been asking me, what do you think will happen if Israel and Kelvin were to rematch? Israel would knock him out inside 2 for sure. In my opinion.
Well, I think Kelvin is super tough and gritty, but yeah, I would say probably within 3 rounds.
I just think Israel's come a very long way since even then.
Yeah, I think he's learned how to implement his MMA game plan much better since his first couple fights.
Totally agreed. Okay, so next question comes from our man, Pat Tobin. That's at Pat_Tobin. He says, if Izzy was to go up to 205 tomorrow, and assuming John Jones had actually left the division, who do you think beats him? Or, if your answer is no one, who offers the most interesting challenge for him stylistically? #AskSplitPod. Wow, great question, Pat. So again,
question.
To remind you, Fight Geek, before you answer, and I'll let you answer first, you cannot include John Jones. This is assuming Jones has moved out. Okay, so who do you say?
Alexander Rakic.
You think Rakic beats Style bender?
Well, I think it says offers the most interesting challenge. Obviously, he's a huge striker. He showed that he can implement a ground game in his last fight. I think he would be much bigger than Izzy, much more powerful, and he's already shown that he's a technical power striker. So I think that's the kind of matchup that would give him problems for sure.
Man, I have this whole I have a whole theory that Izzy is a secret light heavyweight who's just.
But he's not. You can look at his waist and his hips and his shoulders. He's not a true light heavyweight.
You don't think he could bulk up and be fine? Well,
he could bulk up, but he still wouldn't have the density or the mass of probably even like a Thiago Santos, in my opinion.
Okay, well, take Paulo Costa. Costa was openly talking about, I'm going to win the belt, then I'm going to move up.
Yeah, but Costa's like Yoel Romero in the sense that they're too short with short arms. They will get eaten alive in the 205-pound division. Those guys are like 6'6", 230 pounds. They're way too big for them.
Yeah. I'm just saying Israel did not look small against Paulo.
205.
Do you think Israel looked small?
That is the worst idea ever.
Do you think Israel looked small against Paulo?
Well, Paulo is small. He's buff, but he's small. He's short, and he's got super short arms. Paulo's not a large man. He's just super buff. You get what I'm saying?
Of course. Yeah.
Alexander Reyes is a exponentially larger man than Paulo Costa, which means he carries much more power, which means he trains against larger men all the time, which means that Izzy would be punching up versus someone who would be punching down. I just don't think it's as clear-cut and as easy as most people assume it to be.
Yep, very fair. Okay.
I mean, what is he starch Anthony Smith? Probably. But is he going to go
Anthony Smith has – I don't know what's happened to him, but as a big Anthony Smith fan, I mean, he has come apart.
Well, like I said, I think he rushed back, and that was bad. But I'm just saying.
I don't know what happened to Anthony Smith. Something horrible happened to him. I don't know what it is.
Are there guys Izzy could beat at 205? I'm sure there are, but I think that some of the bigger, stronger guys would give him problems because I don't view him as this oversized, powerful middleweight. I don't even think he's like that large of a middleweight. He's tall and lanky.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's very interesting.
Last point. Anderson Silva, who went to 205 and kind of fluctuated throughout his career, was a much more dense fighter than Israel Adesanya. Much more mass. So again, I think.
So you would have Jan Blehovich beating Izzy.
No,
you would not.
I think there'd be a technical and speed advantage for Izzy there. What I said was the bigger guys, the 6'4", the 6'5".
Okay, put a name out there though.
Reyes, maybe even. I mean, I'm not ready to say.
Oh, you're saying that Jan would lose, but Reyes would win? Reyes is like the dumbest fighter. He has no brain. He literally saw the legs go out of Volkan and just followed into the legs go out of Lionheart and followed him into the guard like a dumbass.
They asked who would be the most interesting challenge.
I just think Reyes is about as smart as a bag of bricks. I think he's as smart as and by the way, I say that. I mean, I liked Reyes. I mean, you know that. You know I like that part of the world. Reyes is as smart as a bag of bricks.
Who is your choice?
My choice is Death. I think Jan would be a great fight.
Jan versus Izzy.
You think Izzy would toy with him? I mean, Jan has some serious power.
If nothing else, I think Izzy would win with footwork and clearly win a decision. I don't think Jan would be able to get his hands on Izzy.
Probably. If that's the case, though, then Izzy would be crazy not to do the fight tomorrow. Get that double champ belt now.
Well, I don't find that to be a super interesting fight, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, don't worry. I don't think Israel's interested in that, from his comments. But yeah, okay, I agree with you. So, moving on. So, this is from Larry at Larmule61, OG of the podcast. What's up, Larry? He says #AskSplitPod. This is a slightly similar question to before, so we can go quick, but I didn't want to read it. What are your thoughts on Izzy raw dogging? How is that acceptable in the sport/promotion when it would not be in the NBA, etc.? And what do you think, looking in the future, the repercussions of this will be? Do you want me to start or you?
I'll go ahead real quick.
Okay.
So basically, why is it not in like NBA, etc.? Well, that's because they have a players' union. They're not independent contractors. There's a difference between the two.
I mean, they're pretty different. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they're pretty different.
The code of conduct that's instituted in the professional leagues is much different than, working with a privately contracted employee. So I just think that, it's the fight business. It's unique to itself. You're going to see some unsavory stuff, some unsavory characters. Like I said, I wasn't particularly fond of it, but I understand it based on the fact that I've been watching Israel's career since he got to the UFC, and I followed the buildup of the fight. These things are to be expected. And the repercussions are going to be what they are. They're going to be, having, people perceive, these things as disrespectful, I don't know, homophobic, things like that. I'm not sure how people perceive this stuff, but as long as Dana and the organization allows these things to go on, the repercussions are that people are free to view that how they want, and they could potentially view it as disgusting and distasteful and be turned off. So I feel like that is the repercussion. But with that said, it's the fight business. There's a lot of gray area for that type of thing. So
yeah, I mean, like you said, that's the fight business. You said that people could be disgusted and turned off. I don't disagree with that, but would politely counter with, obviously the UFC has made sure to, very closely align itself with a certain presidential candidate. A lot of people could be disgusted and turned off from that too. So, I think that it's a little bit,
Yeah, but you're not listening to the point. The point
what am I not listening to?
The repercussions of allowing it to happen are that people may make their own choice and decide that it's unsavory. That's what my point is. I'm not sure.
But aren't people making choices like that about the UFC on a daily basis?
Well, I'm sure they are. It's just another one that would fall in there.
That's fair. Okay, yeah. That's fair. That's very fair. Okay, so moving on. This is from Paul O'Kelly at Sparks F1. Love this guy, a true OG of the show. I mean, I think he's been with us since the very beginning, Fight Geek. He says, has Conor McGregor tweeted himself out of a job? And for those that don't know, this is about his row with Dana White. He released some private DMs between him and Dana White where he asked for a main event fight with Diego Sanchez in Los Angeles. Dana White said they would lose their license if they made that fight. It was all a little bizarre. Not sure why Conor thought that would make him look good. If anything, it made him look horrible. But then he also was trying to prove that Dana had agreed to a Manny Pacquiao fight. It was all a big sort of mess. And then Dana said that Conor had broken bro code and really threw him under the bus there. And Conor answered the next day by pretending to care about Dustin Poirier's charity.
Yeah, we all know. We're all on Twitter.
And he said, Dustin, let's do a charity bout because I want people to forget about what happened.
And I already forgot the question.
Yeah, I'm just I'm curious on your thoughts. Has Conor tweeted himself out of a job? Was the question.
I hope so. I mean, is anybody else? Is anybody else?
That's my favorite answer from you on this show yet. That's my favorite Fight Geek answer yet.
I'm ready to move on from the Conor McGregor era.
I have had enough of him, guys. He nailed it. No, Fight Geek, you nailed it. I've had enough.
People who are still posting memes of him or gifs of him knocking out Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah, you guys got to get over it. You guys got to move on.
It's over. Pick someone else to follow. I mean, I don't know what you want
me to say. It's honestly sad. It's extremely hard to watch. It's so excruciating.
Well, it's just,
it's so hard to watch. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's annoying. It's tedious to follow. It's just.
And by the way, Conor, if you care about Dustin's charity, which would be great if you did. What you could do is you could just donate to it. You don't have to have a fight.
Right.
Just donate your money.
Your whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey, he's made a lot of money off that whiskey, trust me.
So, no, my point is, Conor McGregor at this point is truly the notorious. He's known for his notorious things more than he is known for his actual success in the ring.
You're making him sound a little cool. I think he's lost all coolness, which is such a shame. He used to be really cool. I feel like he's lost that.
Yeah, no doubt about the shine has wore off. I mean,
now he's like the tacky fighter. It's like, oh, you like McGregor. Got it. You're like a loser.
The Manny Pacquiao fight. Like, I just don't understand what is that the point? Is that just a way to salvage some value?
Well, and then what did you make of him wanting? He very seriously asked Dana White to make a main event pay-per-view with him versus Diego Sanchez. And I just think that's very telling about his confidence in himself.
I think the most absurd
Someone has no confidence.
That I read, yes, I know. I'm saying the most absurd thing I read is that Conor McGregor in those tweets actually says that he thought Diego looked good against Michel Pereira based on the opponent, which, if I remember correctly, Diego Sanchez looked horrible from bell to bell until he took a cheap victory from a penalty. I don't know what Conor is referring to as far as I thought he looked good considering the opponent. Diego Sanchez hasn't looked good in years. So it's just these diluted statements that don't make any sense.
And what's so weird is, let's not forget, by the way, McGregor had a huge win at UFC 246 against Cowboy. So,
but how huge is it?
No, I just would have thought that he could use that as some confidence boosting, but you can tell he clearly did not, right? He has no confidence. He's a broken shell of a man, which is really, it's just sad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where the truth lies. Obviously, he seems to want to fight, yet the people that he can fight is so limited that it's just getting so exhausting. I wasn't a few weeks ago. He's rumors in the tabloids and Dana talking about
the sexual assault arrest, of course. Unfortunately,
which was proven to be false, right? So
I can't comment on that. Are you sure? Was it? I don't know.
I'm not sure, but I'm just saying that.
Yeah, I can't comment. I'm not at all sure of that.
It's something new every day, but you know what? It's never a booking versus a relevant contender. So
right, and if where there's again, one incident, two incidents, no problem. Maybe he's being targeted for his money, but where there's smoke, there's fire, and it's every other month now. It's every other month you're hearing about, oh, Conor's waving his dick in this person's face. Oh, Conor's assaulting this old man. And it's just like, you got to chill, bro. You got to stop waving your dick in the face of these young girls, and you've got to stop assaulting old men. You just got to stop.
All right, I think we can get off.
Okay, moving on. So this is from my boy, Cyrus, at Cyrus King. He's got a great podcast himself, Combat Corner. Check it out, guys. He says, who would the more impressive win, Jan beating Reyes or Izzy beating Costa? Myself, I say Jan, but I'm curious on your guys' thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say Jan because I think that was the more evenly matched fight. I clearly thought that Israel was more skilled, an 8-inch reach advantage. I know people overlook an 8-inch reach advantage, but when you give that kind of advantage to someone as technically superior as Israel Otasanya, it's damn near impossible to beat him. So with that said, I do feel like Jan's performance was a touch better because it was against better competition in a more fairly matched competition.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think this is where it gets tricky, right? Because we're talking about, okay, if we're saying which performance was better in history, I'm going to say Israel's because I think, look, Costa was undefeated. There was a lot of heat. 50% of MMA fans thought Costa was going to win. But
that's all you need to know about 50% of MMA fans.
All right. In their defense, I thought it'd be an Adesanya decision. So, but I hear you. Jan was a big underdog. I have to agree with you. Jan's win was bigger. Everyone was saying Reyes is going to kill him. Jan has no chance.
And Reyes had the look of a young champion who could have become champion, and then we would be sitting here today talking about, do we think Reyes can hold this title for a while? So, I think that was a bigger opponent to overcome for Jan than Costa was for Israel, is what I'm saying.
Yep. Totally agree. Really quick, moving on to a question from Eduardo that's at Land of Crew. He says, what's the most effective way to prevent fighters from missing weight? 1, 90% purse deduction. 2, 1-point deduction in the first round. P.S. I missed you guys. Eduardo, we missed you too. Well, you just copied me. All right. That's upsetting.
I'm sorry. Anyways, I like the point deduction thing. I think 90% would deter people from actually taking the fights, and I think that we'd just see a lot more fights canceled at that rate. So I think that we're going to have to start looking at some sort of point deduction system and go from there.
100%, and I don't know why that's so controversial. I've seen a lot of people when I give that idea. By the way, I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh no, that's too severe." What do you mean that's too severe? They're cheating. They're cheaters. What are you talking about?
Right.
So, I think, and by the way, I also think, everyone who's trying to, drag Izzy under the bus. Well, guess what? What is the first thing that he was talking passionately about to Dana White after he won the belt? He was saying it's bullshit to let these people get away with just a 30% loss. They're gangsters. They don't care. And
to be fair, he was sticking up for his teammates who had
absolutely he was.
So yeah, I mean, I appreciate Izzy going to bat for his teammates there because it is a form of cheating. So yeah,
I thought it said a lot about Israel's character and kind of what he was, what he was thinking about in that moment. It said a lot about him, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, okay. So moving on. This is from Glitch. That's at MMA Port. He says #AskSplitPod. With Canelo in litigation with DAZN, is the UFC now the biggest fight promoter in the world? What a great question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about that because, I mean, to my knowledge, Eddie Hearn is paying, Anthony Joshua hundreds of millions of $50 million, $100 million to fight, Bob
Are you
Arum
telling me
of
boxing's making more revenue right now than mixed martial arts? Because I'm not sure I can believe that.
Well, when you're selling out Wembley Stadium compared to T-Mobile Arena, I think there's a big difference in the gate.
Oh, don't worry about the gates. We're talking about buys.
No, we're talking about the most powerful promoter, the biggest promoter in the world, and that encompasses all of it. It encompasses promoting fights live and digitally. So I would still say that I don't have the numbers offhand, but I don't believe that Dana is making more or doing any more than those two. But I could be wrong.
Okay.
I mean, Dana White doesn't have any $100 million fighters on his roster, and the one he does made his money in boxing. So I would assume those boxing promoters are still a little bit more powerful.
Okay, I think that's fair. I don't necessarily agree with you. I mean, obviously, I agree with you that UFC fighters are paid less. I mean, that's a doubt, right? But do I think that boxing is the bigger sport right now with more momentum? Absolutely not.
That's not the question at all, though.
Oh, I mean, who's more powerful? That's not the question.
Power equals money, right?
And you're saying that boxing is making more money.
I'm saying if you can pay.
You're saying boxing's making more money than MMA. I don't know if I agree with that.
I'm saying that I feel like Eddie Hearn is potentially a more powerful promoter than Dana White. Yes. I don't know if
we are gonna settle this on a pay-per-view ourselves, and we are fighting. We are gonna fight for sure.
I know that Dana White doesn't have any $50 million fighters in his stables.
All right, I think we need to settle this on pay-per-view ourselves.
Okay. Eddie Hearn versus Dana White?
No, me and you. Okay, never mind. You're not selling it well. We'll talk later. Okay, just kidding, everyone. Forget that. Okay, so this is a question from my man, Uncle Frank. That's at your Uncle Frank 7. He says #AskSplitPod. Out of all the current champs, who's gonna have the best and longest title reign right now? So we have to only consider champs right now and see who has the longest title reign. So I am divided, Fight Geek, between Nunes, Figueiredo, and Otasanya.
Well, that's 3 of the 8 champions in the UFC. So
yes, I also can do math. Can I pick one?
Yeah, could you pick one? Since that's what he's asking.
Okay, what if Nunes retires? Does that count?
Phil, he's asking you the question. Take these things into account and make a selection.
Oh my God. Do you guys hear the disrespect? Like this, I feel like a battered wife right now. Like this is
hey,
okay, I'm choosing Israel Adesanya, okay? That's my choice.
I'm taking Figueiredo.
Okay, all right. I think that's.
I think Israel has a little more stiff competition in his division, and I think he may get bored and move up. Where I'm not sure that I see anyone who beats Figueiredo on the roster in that division right now.
All right. Okay, so that brings us to the very end. The guys tried to break into our Split Podcast account for the voice questions. Couldn't do it. Little L on our part.
I can play them from my end if you really need it.
Oh, wow. I asked you for the password, and you said you didn't know.
Yeah, it's because it's all saved. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I can certainly play the listener questions. I got your back.
You guys see how Fikey? Oh, wow. A little bit of a power dynamic there.
Yeah, see, I understand how to log into an email.
Aha! I didn't change the password.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and play one of our show regulars, Jalen Ware's question, okay? So here's Jalen's question.
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Welcome back. This is Jalen. My question is this. With that great performance from Izzy this past weekend, is it time that we put him amongst the all-time UFC champions, greats of the past and present? And is he, of all UFC champions currently right now, is he the hardest of all the champions to prepare for, based on his skill set and his octagon IQ? I know most will probably say Khabib, but is Izzy the hardest to prepare for? And if not, what would you rank him amongst the hardest of the champions to prepare for? Thanks, fellas. Hey, what's going on, fam?
Did you hear that?
I did. Jalen is the man. Jalen, thank you for the amazing question. Our podcast is legitimately always better because of you and your great questions. I think that Izzy, if he's not number one, he's number two. I mean, Jalen said it, right? Khabib and Izzy. Those are the two.
No doubt about it. Those are the two. Such unique styles, so hard to prepare for, so dominant in what they do. I think it's got to be them. I would still say that Khabib is the harder guy to match up for because what Khabib possesses, I feel like it took a lifetime to kind of develop, and I just don't think...
Maybe. Israel has more weapons, though.
He does, but I don't think his singular weapon is as dominant as Khabib's singular weapon. Okay. So he's obviously more versatile, but I think his style's more familiar to be beaten than Khabib's.
Okay. I think that's fair.
So that's what I go there. And now we got one more queued up from Kairos. He sent one in. So I'm going to go ahead and play Kairos' question.
Kairos.
What's up, guys? Anyway, let me chill out. We always hear people saying X fighter is overrated or underrated or underpaid or overpaid. If you were a fighter in whatever organization of your choosing, whether it's Bellator, the UFC, Combate Americanos, whatever, would you rather be underpaid or overrated? To me, it's an easy question, an easy answer for me, but in your personal opinion, what would you choose? Also, I need you guys to make a pact with me right now. The next major MMA promotion that has an event in the United States of America, I need y'all to vow to me that you will be at that event. Because I'm going to be there. I will be there. And I have a feeling it's coming sooner rather than later. Let me know.
Wow. The challenge has been issued to show up at the first event. We'll see if we can make that happen. I've always wanted to kind of get together with some of our Twitter people at an event or whatever and have a good time. So, yeah, we'll stay in touch there.
I have two. I never know which ones are legitimately wanting to shake my hands and which ones want to sucker punch me, but it's a risk I'm willing to take.
Or both.
I think a lot both. But, hey, like I just said, a risk I'm willing to take, gladly.
So do you have an answer to the question?
Kairos' voice is so mesmerizing. I kind of he's so theatrical in such a great way that I what was the question?
Hold on 1 second.
Wait. Oh, it was about, okay, so we have to show up to the event, blah, blah, blah.
It says, would you rather be underpaid?
Oh, underpaid or overrated? Underpaid or overrated?
So I think that's you're already overrated, so,
And you're already underpaid.
So there you have it. There's the answer.
I'm the overrated one, you're the underpaid one. So kind of how does that work?
We could actually just change the name of the podcast, Overrated Underpaid.
I think that might be good.
So great question.
Can we name it? Can we change the name to that? Can we though?
Overrated Underpaid.
Overrated Underpaid.
We'll be rebranding next week.
All right. I would rather be underpaid, right? Because then you
You'd always rather be overrated because that means you're getting paid what you're
But then
rated.
you're about to lose, brah, and then you're going to lose all that money. If you're underpaid, you go and knock someone out. Now you're asking for the pay. Kairos did mediocre to poor job of explaining the exact time of the question. What is the moment in time where I have to address this?
Your brain hurts me, Phil. What are you talking about?
I'm saying, when does this happen? Oh, relax.
It's happening in real time. You don't get to project.
Okay, so you're saying so you would rather be overpaid, or you'd rather be overpaid and then lose all the potential to make money.
Overrated and underpaid have nothing to do with winning or losing in general. For instance.
Well, then I'd rather be overpaid, duh.
That's not an option. It's overrated or underpaid, Phil. Try to wrap your head around the concept of the question.
It's too complicated for me. I guess you better call young Jamie.
Well, okay, let's put it this
way. Okay, shut up. I don't need your little sass. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. I would rather be underpaid so that I could get paid by surprising everyone and knocking them the fuck out.
That's not how it works. But okay.
Wow, we're getting in a big fight about this question. Kairos, you started a world war.
Would you rather be... I mean, let's think of someone who is overrated.
Paulo Costa.
No. What are you talking about? Never mind. Okay, this is no good.
Okay, think who's overrated? Gregor Gillespie.
No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like a big name guy. Alistair Overeem may be a little overrated based on what he's paid. Hector Lombard was uber overrated based on what he was paid. I think if we're understanding
uber overrated, right. Is this 1992?
Okay, are we wrapping up the show?
Yeah, I think we're wrapping it up. All right. I think that's it. And if that's it, Fight Geek, take us away, baby.
All right, guys. As usual, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. I'm at The Fight Geek MMA. He's at Phil the MMA Dude. We are at Split_podcast. It's 4 words, The Split Decision Podcast. Glad to be back, and we will see you next week. Peace.